Germany occupied Denmark from 1940 until 1945 and laid landmines along its coastline to protect against an invasion from other countries. Nevertheless, this invasion did not take place. The movie's opening scene features a procession of men dressed in military uniforms from Germany. Officer Rasmus of the Danish military was following their movements from his jeep. These German soldiers were captured and held as prisoners of war during World War I. Rasmus flipped out when he noticed that one of the German soldiers was holding a red flag, which caused him to lose his temper. He exploded out of his vehicle and began to physically confront the other person. He arrives at a beach and, after consulting a map, places a black flag there. A group of 14 young German soldiers is shown standing in front of Eb, a Danish officer. The officer tells us that Germans are not welcome in this country and that some of them have been detained for special purposes. It has been brought to my attention that approximately 2.2 million landmines are buried along Denmark's west coast. They were the ones who were selected to remove these landmines. A good number of them have never even been inside a mine. Between 15 and 20 centimeters of sand cover the mine's exposed surfaces. They were given basic training in mine removal. Each soldier goes to practice removing mines, but one of them is killed in the explosion. The remaining boys are dispatched to Rasmus to remove the mines. On their way to the west coast, they came across a young girl and her mother who were playing together in the fields, but the girl's mother quickly dragged her away when she saw the German soldiers. As soon as they arrived, Rasmus immediately started yelling at them. He put out a call for a row. There were 10 boys in total, 2 identical twin brothers named Werner and Ernst Lessner. Rasmus has just informed them that the area in between the black flags is contaminated with 45,000 landmines. He told the young men that they would be able to return home if they were successful in removing the 45,000 landmines. If everything goes according to plan, clearing out 6 landmines every hour should only take about 3 months to accomplish. He walked them through the map, which features a variety of symbols and numbers corresponding to each region. The various kinds of mines are represented by the corresponding symbols. The map needs to be updated at least once per day. He threatens them if they attempt to run away. Every explosion was a life or death exchange. The boys lacked dignity and lived in constant fear. But everyone worked very hard because they only wanted to go home after finishing the task. The boys don't waste time, working non-stop until late at night. When they went to bed after a day's work, one of the boys named Wilhelm was telling how he wants to be a mechanic when he grows up. Another man named Helmut says, frustrated, that they will not be sent back home and that it is all an illusion. The young men did not receive any food. 2 of the guys took notice of the young girl, who had been seen earlier occupying her time with a doll. Because they noticed that she was eating bread, one of the guys approached her to start a conversation. The next thing she knew, her mother was there yelling for Elizabeth to come here. While the girl is looking at her mother, the boy quickly grabs the loaf of bread and stuffs it into his pocket before the girl can turn around. They started back up with their efforts to defuse the mines the following day. Following their labor, one of the boys, named Sebastian, went to Rasmus and requested that they provide them with food so that they could continue their labor. Rasmus gets angry with him and tells him to leave the room. The boys complained that they were starving throughout the night, but they were told there would be nothing for them to eat. The boys were so hungry that they had trouble sleeping at night. Because Helmut couldn't control his hunger, he escaped through the window at midnight and stole some food from the farm belonging to his neighbor. He also brought some for all of his friends back with him. The younger of the twin brothers, Ernst, woke up with a fever and threw up in the morning. Werner made a request to Sergeant Rasmus asking that his younger brother be allowed to rest for 1 hour, but his request was immediately denied. The sergeant was of the opinion that war prisoners did not need to rest and were unconcerned about Germans. Wilhelm, a different boy, also exhibited the same symptoms as Ernst did. He had just found a mine and was about to take the first step toward extracting the lead when he began to throw up. He was unable to maintain his concentration and pulled the wrong lead, which ultimately led to an explosion. Wilhelm sustained life-threatening injuries. Sebastian and his twin brother brought him to safety on the side of the road while yelling for help. Wilhelm screamed out in excruciating pain as he called his mother and begged to be allowed to go back home. The door was locked by the farm lady as soon as she realized what was going on. They started yelling for the sergeant, who at first ignored them but then came out eventually. He administered a painkiller via injection to him. Because of this, he was able to stop crying, and he was taken to the hospital. In a short amount of time, each of the boys developed symptoms of fever and vomiting. Helmut admitted that he had stolen food from the farm because they were in such a desperate situation. Sergeant Rasmus went to the farm to see a neighbor. According to the lady farmer, the boy could have mistaken the mouse feces for food. The lady farmer smiled smugly at this point. Sergeant Rasmus began to consider whether he had mistreated the boys. He resolved to better treat them. He instructed the boys to drink seawater and spit out the poison in their system. They finally began to recover. Sebastian devised an instrument to aid in the clearing of the mines, but Rasmus admonished him and sent him to bed. He drove to the hospital the following day to see how Wilhelm was doing, but the nurse broke the news to him that Wilhelm had passed away the day before. Because Sergeant Rasmus was feeling sorry for the soldiers, he went back to the barracks to get some bread for them. Captain Ebb observed his motion and took note. Because he did not want the boys to be in a state of hopelessness, he fed them and informed them that Wilhelm was still alive. One night, Captain Ebb was the leader of a group of people who bullied the boys. People exchanged their urine for the bread the boys had consumed by passing it inside their mouths in the form of droplets. When Sergeant Rasmus heard the commotion, he immediately roused himself from his sleep. He put an end to the boys being tortured and stated that they were still required to clear the balance mines from the area. Captain Ebb reprimanded Sergeant Rasmus for his actions and reminded him that he should not be too lenient with the junior officers. The following day, the boys got right back to their work. Sebastian made an important discovery when he uncovered a mining network. According to his years of experience, they were unable to remove the interconnected mines one at a time. He yelled at everyone to come to a stop. Werner didn't hear it because it was so far away and there was an explosion. Ernst dashed over to find his brother, but he was no longer visible. He burst into tears and became emotionally unstable. The sergeant administered an injection that put him to sleep. Sergeant Rasmus' heart had never ached more. He approached Sebastian, who was sitting alone on the beach, and informed him that Wilhelm had died. Sebastian stated that he was aware. Rasmus inquires about the cross locket. Sebastian explained how his father had given him the locket. After that, they both laughed. This is the first time we see Sergeant Rasmus laugh. He fell back into thought. He no longer locked the boys up at night because he wanted to see them free. He dashed back to the barracks, quietly gathering more food for them. He played football with them and organized beach races for them. Sergeant Rasmus and the boys walked back to the house after a day of fun. Gustav and Albert, two soldiers, joined their team. They were all returning with Rasmus and his dog. They were startled to hear an explosion. An explosion killed the dog who had been with him for years at this point. According to the boys' report, this was a free zone with all mines cleared. Sergeant Rasmus was furious at the boys' carelessness, and his dog was sacrificed. He started behaving towards one of the boys as if he were a dog, giving him orders such as to sit, bark, and fetch the ball. He no longer felt any compassion or empathy for the boys. He instructed the young men to form a row, take hold of the arms of the other boys in the row, and use their combined weight to feel around the area for any additional mines. Fortunately, there were not any more that were found. Helmut finally reached his limit for the night, and a few of them made an attempt to escape, but Sebastian was able to stop them. He had full faith that the sergeant would keep his word and deliver what he had promised. Sebastian was successful in convincing him to complete the assignment as quickly as possible so that they could return home. However, Helmut was not interested in what Sebastian and the other boys had to say, so they tied him up. The lady farmer rushed into the dormitory the next day. Her daughter entered the minefield, and she required assistance from the German soldiers this time. The German boys rushed to the scene without hesitation. Sebastian intended to remove the surrounding mines so that he could walk over them. Rasmus entered the dormitory and inquired about the whereabouts of all the boys. He dashed to the beach. Ernst ran barefoot to the little girl and pulled her out of the minefield, saving her life. Ernst returned to the minefield, not looking back. He could no longer bear life without his brother. He was killed in the explosion. Sebastian was taken aback. Rasmus told him to stay strong because the battle was almost over. The remaining boys must continue with the mine removal task. They finished removing all 45,000 mines after half a month. The mission to remove the mines was coming to an end. They can return home once they have loaded all of the land mines into the lorry. The nightmare had come to an end. The boy cheerfully threw one mine on the lorry, causing a large explosion. Tragedies were always unexpected. Only 4 of the original 14 people remain. Captain Ebb informs Rasmus that they need more experienced men at Scallion and that the German boys should be sent there because they already have mine-clearing experience. They would be sent to a stretch of coastline to clear another 72,000 mines. Sergeant Rasmus begged for the boys' release, but his request was denied. Rasmus and Ebb got into a heated argument, but it was in vain. The remaining 4 boys climbed into the truck, unaware of the authorities' plan. They were taken to Saligan, where they were informed that they would not be given a map to search for the mines. Sergeant Rasmus gave the order to load those 4 boys into a truck and drive them to the German border, where he told them to run for their lives. Rasmus violated the organization, but he was following his heart's calling. He wanted to release them as promised for their actions. He cured the hatred in his heart because he did not want to use war as an excuse to take lives. After the boys ran for freedom, Sergeant Rasmus felt relieved. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.